Aloha. Isten áldjon. God bless you. For those of you who have missed last Sunday's service, I would like to present a brief introduction of ourselves. My name is Erőd Szabó and I am a Unitarian minister since 2005. And I am here with you together with my family, my wife Kata, she is a nursery school teacher. We have 2 children, Magor is 7, Regő is 4. We live and serve in a small town called Ürmös in Transylvania, Romania. Listening to Dr. King's lessons about leadership, I feel that the creed of Francis Balázs, Unitarian minister at the beginning of the 20th century, resonate a lot with those lessons. My scholarship, which brought us here to the United States, is named after this Unitarian minister. I believe that this world is not a chain of casual things. I believe that everything has its own aim. I believe that the world's nature, predestination, fate, decision, unchangeable will is to form persons who with great trust can feel and know themselves integrated parts of the whole world and act as such. I believe that the world purpose keeps working through many small aims, through the fulfillment of human will, that each generation, each individual has the task of forging one of the chain links. I believe that if I can fulfill my little purpose in this short life of mine, I achieve something valuable in itself, and not even death can diminish its meaning. I believe in human dignity, and in case it identifies itself with the world purpose, I believe in the freedom of will. I believe that the will of my real self is the will that achieves expression in the world purpose, and if I follow the world purpose, I only follow my own will. And I believe in God. This world is beautiful, great, wonderful, with happy fate. It is amazing and mysterious. And when I am filled with it, overwhelmed with its infinity, its intimacy raises me, its joy makes me rejoice, then what springs forth for me is God. Do not ask what this word really means for me. It means what wowing means for those in pain, what awe means for those in surprise, what laughter means for the happy. It expresses everything because it says nothing. I do not argue, I do not state, I do not prove. I am not self-consistent. I give no reasons. I only sigh and cry and rejoice, and I am enthusiastic, God. Religion gives the aim of my life. Science helped me reach it. Arts give me the opportunity to take pleasure in it. And it is this life of mine, becoming perfect through all these, where I expect God to reveal oneself. Transylvania is a small paradise. It has high and wild mountains with beautiful forests, mild lands just perfect for agriculture, fountains, springs, streams and rivers, and lots of wealth under the surface too. Minerals, raw materials, and even gold. Healing waters as a remembrance of ancient volcanic activity. One of our Transylvanian-Hungarian writers entitled his book about Transylvania, The Garden of Fairies. Transylvanians consider their home a mythical, a legendary land, which is in fact the middle of the earth, the most important part of creation. Transylvania does not only have a rich natural diversity, but its population is highly diverse too. It is inhabited by Hungarians and Romanians, Székely people, who are a Hungarian-speaking ethnic group with Han origins. I think Attila's name is familiar to many of you. Saxons and Schwabs, German-speaking population, invited to this country by medieval kings of Hungary to fill the demographic void after the Tartars emptied whole regions in their way. Wandering Roma people with their specific way of thinking and living, and lively music and authentic dances. Armenians and Jews, who were the traders of towns and villages. We Transylvanian Unitarians like to remember that there was a time in the 16th century when this fairyland was one of the few places in Europe where religious freethinkers were welcomed instead of being threatened with prison or burning on the stake. We need to accept this diversity. And more than that, we need to acknowledge the wealth of this diversity and become aware that this land will be a fairyland for all of its ethnic groups, or it will be a hell of constant struggles and conflicts for all of us. There is no way in between. If you will ever come and visit us, and please consider that an invitation, which I really hope will happen in the future, you will understand our feelings and our love for our homeland. But if I would have to name another center of the world, another most legendary place besides our homeland, Hawaii would probably be one on the top of the list. Beautiful landscapes, endless ocean and high, sacred-looking mountains. A legendary place where East and West are no longer opposites, but they are very close to each other. And it becomes difficult to draw a line between them. We are very grateful to be here with you. But not only with you, Hawaiian Unitarians, but we are grateful for our experience through this scholarship. And please let me tell you a story of the Old Testament which speaks about how I perceive my learning and my encounters and our wonderful journey in this fascinating country. It is the story of Joseph, a child who was very loved by his father. In fact, he was the favorite of his father from all of his 12 boys. The brothers weren't too delighted about it. They were jealous, they were angry at him, and once when they had the opportunity, they decided that they will get rid of him. And they sold him to traders, and he was sent to Egypt, and he became a slave. And his life in Egypt was also as a roller coaster. He became a trustworthy leader of his house, but then he ended up in prison. And after that, he ended up to be the second leader of Egypt after the Pharaoh. And when his brothers came to Egypt to buy some grain and escape the hunger which was in their country, they didn't recognize Joseph, their brother. And after a while, Joseph didn't resist anymore. Joseph said to his brothers, "Come near to me, I pray you." And they came near. And he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors." He suffered a lot, and he may have felt that life is not right with him. But one thing always kept Joseph going: faith. the strong belief that there is a greater will and wisdom in the world than his. He was convinced that everything has a meaning, everything happens with a reason, even if that reason is not always clear for him. And when his brothers stood there, hungry for food and hungry for mercy, he realized at once the reason for his adventurous and difficult journey. And this discovery made it possible for him to forgive. He hadn't seen the evil and jealous brothers who wanted him disappeared, but he saw brothers who needed help, needed food, needed encouragement. He hadn't seen the sinful brothers, he just simply saw the brothers. As a Unitarian, I believe in the freedom of the will. But as years and experiences pass by, I realize that there are many things in my life that I decided about. But there are many things in my life, important happenings, which were independent of my will. I didn't choose my origins, my ancestors, my parents. And if I think deeply and honestly, decisions about my ministry and my marriage are also not just my rational decisions. I live and serve with a firm conviction that besides my will, not luck, not fate, not coincidence influenced my life, but some other powerful wisdom that, like Joseph, I call God. This belief is one of the foundations of my ministry. This is how I deal with challenges that come along. This is how I am able to realize that I was too proud sometimes, or I wasn't thoughtful enough towards others, just like Joseph was towards his brothers. This belief helps me accept mistakes and failures, which are parts of a constant learning process. This belief helps me to accept things and people, situations and experiences that I cannot understand. This belief helps me to ask for forgiveness and to forgive others and myself. The other important element of my ideal leadership is made clear by our teacher Jesus, who says to his disciples, "I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me." For Jesus and for his people of his community, it was obvious that knowing each other is the same as loving each other. How much wisdom there is in this assumption. Let's just look at it from the opposite angle. When does hate have a chance in people's life, in the life of our communities? When people are strangers to each other, when they don't know each other. Politicians in Romania are using this distance between people a lot. They like to threaten. They threaten Hungarians with Romanians, and they threaten Romanians with Hungarians. But Hungarian and Romanian families, which have been neighbors for generations, will not believe these threats because they respect each other, they trust each other, they know each other, and yes, they even love each other. But the threatening system will still work fine, build hatred and bring votes when people are lazy and narrow-minded enough to remain strangers to each other. It has happened a lot in history. It is happening now, and I know it is not only happening in Romania, but even here in American politics and society. Making efforts to know each other is a sacred responsibility, not only towards each other, but also for a future of justice and peace. One of the first things I did in my congregation when I began my ministry there in 2007 was to visit every family. I visited my people many times since then, formally or informally. I meet them on the street and in the church. We party together and mourn together. We worship and play together. And I always learn something new about their lives, thoughts, and feelings. I know them because I love them. I love them because I know them. They know me because they love me, and they love me because they know me. I don't really exactly know which is the right order, but I am convinced that no one can fuel hatred among us. Through the 12 years I have been serving in this community, not everything went always perfectly. There were bad mistakes, we had arguments, the minister and people got upset many times. We didn't always understand each other, but love rooted in knowledge always helped us to step forward and step towards each other. My studies and experiences enforced me in my beliefs during the first semester spent at Berkeley. My plan from back home was to learn about preaching and find new elements and possibilities on this field that I could take home with me, refreshing my sermons written for Transylvanian pulpits. But my plan had a difficulty. There were no preaching courses in the first semester, so members of the scholarship committee had set up an individual skill with the Reverend John Burans, former president of the UUA. It turned out to be not only a preaching class, but I also discovered a great guide for learning more about Unitarian Universalist history and Unitarian Universalist present too. It wasn't my plan, my will. I believe I had to meet him, and so it happened. The other 3 classes I took were about church leadership and justice ministry. In my notes taken at those classes, I came to realize that I ended up with a few answers to my questions and hundreds of answers to my questions and hundreds of new questions I had never thought of. A few years ago, Transylvanian Unitarians looked for a short definition of our religion. One of the best definitions in my reading sounded like this: Unitarianism, religion of the great questions. The roots of Christianity are Jesus' questions regarding his own people's religion and the society of his age. Transylvanian and European Unitarianism have their origins in questioning the traditional doctrines of Christianity. If we Unitarians want to step forward and want to grow, we need to keep on asking new, challenging questions that may disturb our comfort zone, but without them we will become fossils of our own past. So I may have come to study in Berkeley and find answers. That was my will. Some other more powerful and wiser will decided I needed new and challenging questions. Here are just some of these new questions. How does our theology approach issues like immigration, gender rights, poverty, corruption, climate issues? Can we ground our answers in eternal divine laws instead of giving answers that current political groups expect us to give? What we can learn about our past, our history of which we are so proud? Can we renew and apply the principles of religious and spiritual freedom and tolerance to modern days, to the complicated problems of our age and society? Could we be part or even initiators of interfaith organizations that can identify common values and goals beyond the differences in our creeds and theology? We know our past, our history as individuals, as families, as larger faith or ethnic communities. This knowledge makes us love these communities with their glorious and painful moments. Living in this past seems very comfortable because it gives us the false safety of an unchanging world. But instead of simplifying our issues and our responsibilities, we need challenging questions which take us to the very heart of our present time and wakes our conscience regarding our future, regarding the future of our communities. I am convinced it isn't a coincidence that we as a family enjoy UU hospitality in these 11 months. It is not a coincidence that I have the chance of studying at one of the most progressive seminaries in the world. It is not a coincidence that we have spent the last 10 days on this fairy land. It is not a coincidence that we worship together on this Sunday. And it is not a coincidence that we have met our wonderful hosts, Nancy and Mike, Sue and Dan, who were outstanding guides on this beautiful land and the outstanding guides of your special community. Great mahalo from me and my family for them, for opening the doors of their homes and the doors of their hearts in front of us. Tomorrow, we will head back to Berkeley, and in June, we will go back home to our congregation. But we are going back with lots of wonderful experiences, many thoughts and feelings through which we changed many things in our worldview. I pray for all of us that one day we will all realize the real deep reason for which we had to meet. We had to spend time together. The reason for us to admire this legendary land. Until then, let's be brave and free messengers of love, of peace, of brotherhood and sisterhood, even when the chances of success seem to be irrationally weak. Believing that those who love God, who love justice, and love others will always own the most influential power that is the heart of our ministry, our lives, our communities, and the heart of the creation too. May we be blessed with such love and such faith. Amen.